All right, so I will stop sharing and I'll let Tom get started. We're going to save 15 minutes at the end to leave for questions with Tom. And so if you have questions, you can either type them into the chat or the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, and we will moderate those and get those to Tom.
Let me just kind of give you an overview of, I'll start out with an overview of the SBDC. So as Kelly said, I work for the Small Business Development Center. The Small Business Development Center is a partnership between the State University of New York, the United States Small Business Administration on the federal level, and then the state of New York. So the State University of New York is the host of the program. There are 20 centers in New York State at various state colleges. Some down in the city, they're in some private colleges, and they're in some CUNY schools, and they're in some community colleges. So it's throughout. We at UAlbany, we cover 11 counties in the capital region. So we have a staff right now of 4.5 full-time advisors. Pretty much we do one-to-one advisement for people in small business or expecting to go into small business, wanting to go into small business. And that goes over a big range of people. So you're talking about people who are just thinking about it and people who are moving toward it. This slide here gives us what kind of services we have, and this is kind of a smaller abbreviated sample of services. I would say that we start with business plan, financial analysis, and financial projections. Those are probably our top 3 requests because a lot of our referrals come through the banking network, okay? We're here to help small businesses, and we're funded by the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration has financing programs through guaranteed loan programs and direct loan programs that they work with the banking community. So a lot of times the people starting their business go to the bank first, and then the bank will direct them to us to get the business plan and financial projections, okay? You'll see market research, the topic of today's presentation, kind of highlighted there, and then other services, market plan development, mentoring, government certifications, procurement plan, government procurement, international trade. We have a specific specialist in international trade if that's something you're interested in. But market research is kind of the topic of today, and because it's such a requested service, we end up with several years ago the New York State program decided to create a staff of librarians. That way they call the research network, and it's and then they just subscribe to databases and do a lot of secondary research, and they're on hand and available to all. So there's 5 librarians. They're housed here in Albany, and all of these centers throughout the state get access to those librarians. So they will put together a research network request. The librarians go to work on it. It usually takes 3 or 4 days to get the request back. So you have to be a client of the Small Business Development Center first, and I'll go over that a little bit more, how you become a client of the Small Business Development Center. It's very easy, but once you become a client, you'll get assigned to an advisor. You can work through that advisor to craft your research request. And sometimes people get one research request, some that satisfies them. Other times they'll come back and do one iteration and get some information, find out some additional information through that data that they got provided, and then they go back for a second request. So it's kind of having a team of research librarians available to you. I want to highlight SBDC services are free. All our services are free. You pay for them in your taxes. We hope this program is going to be around under the current federal administration. They are making some say they're going to be making some big adjustments, but we haven't heard too much at this point. But with that, we kind of for today's presentation, I went back to our research librarians and I said, you know, what are the most requested databases or reports that you would request that you get for requests, and can we get a sample of each and kind of a profile of each? And so they have more information. I mean, a lot of times they'll be doing literature searches, but these are the kind of the top 10 databases that they get requests for. So for today, I thought we'd just go through each one of these, give you a summary of what they were. We can I pulled off samples from each. We can get you. We'll go through it very quickly. So we'll save the questions to the end. But at the end, we'll give you copies of the presentation and the samples, and then what I would suggest is that you register, get assigned to an advisor, and work with an advisor to craft your own research request. Okay, so we have Vertical IQ, BizMiner, Statistic, and D&B Hoover's First Research. These first four databases here, I would categorize as more industry market research. So this is more on the market side and on the bigger industry side. We get into merchant intellect. You get into Crunchbase, Data Axle, and Business Reference Guide. These tend to be more of the actual company information. So if you're searching for competitors, if you're searching for companies that are in the industry, I know if you're doing one of the NSF workshops for SBIR, they'll ask you to do some customer discovery. You know, this might be a tool to help you identify companies that might be available. So these four that are company based, they'll give you company profiles for the individual company and lists of companies, and a lot of these reports can be done on specific location areas. You can do it broader on the national level, or you can drill into specific counties or geographic areas or zip codes. Okay. The last four, I would say, community analysis, that's more consumer related. Profit Sense is a little more financial related. Fundica is a database looking for financial resources. And Business Plan Handbook, if you don't have an idea, never done a business plan before, and you're looking for a sample in your specific industry, you can go to this database. So let's go to the first one, which is Vertical IQ. You can see that this is like, on average, they're like a 30-page report. So there's a lot of data compressed in there. It's comprised of US and you have to, one thing you should understand, if you have to be specific in what your national North American Industrial Classification Code is. If you're unaware of what that is, it's the coding system that the Department of Commerce uses to classify industries. So the sample report I'll show later is of a semiconductor manufacturer. Their NAICS code is 333242. So if you go online in the Department of Commerce and just Google NAICS codes, there's usually search engines you can find to identify what your specific NAICS code is. So this industry intelligence reports under Vertical IQ can come in the form of the larger industry profile industry intelligence report or a more condensed, comprehensive to a 5-minute prep sheets. But in general, what you want to get the more in depth. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next database is Business Miner, and this has two kind of sample reports. You can get market information for industry, or you can get financial information for industry. And I'll show you those examples later. The financial analysis benchmarks over 5,000 lines of business. So you should be able to find a specific narrow enough niche that relates to your business. It has financial averages and ratios from the finance side, local industry market research on the market side, competitive market analysis, and more. So these are two of the top reports for the industry. Statista, the portal for statistics, contains statistics and studies from over 22,500 resources. Here's an interesting tip on when you go through these reports. If you get multiple reports, you're going to see that a lot of these reports use the other reports as references. And in these reports, they'll have a lot of places where it says, click on this button for the source. See what this slide here, when using, be sure to click on the source link to find out the source of the statistics, which can help you find additional information. I can't express enough how important that is, I think, because there's no report that you're going to get that is going to satisfy all your needs for your specific business. So you're going to have to kind of artfully take pieces and metrics from all of these and kind of construct your own market profile for your company, for your own company nuances, you know, for what the competitors are in this specific niche, etc. It's like, and finding the source of those and drilling down to the source of the data is very helpful in doing that. We'll go on to D&B Hoovers, which has industry intelligence, in-depth, and this also has in-depth company profiles for over 170 million businesses. So D&B and Hoovers has been around a long time, okay? A lot of times, it's also referred to as First Research. They kind of combine. D&B and Hoovers used to be separate, and then they combined because, you know, as the internet expanded, data providers, kind of companies in the data providing, expanded also. Mergent Intellect. Now we're starting to get more into the company specific. Interesting that this is accessible through the Brooklyn Public Library. So if you have a card to the Brooklyn Public Library, you can get this information. I also want to make a comment on the Biz Miner report that I showed you earlier. That is available at the U Albany Library. So if you wanted to get in there and do it yourself, you can go in there and play with that. If you're too busy, you can have our research librarians do. But if there's something that you get in and you say, okay, let me go check out and see what they've got in there for my specific business. Crunchbase is more of a company database, and it comes in two forms. You can get business profiles, okay, single business profiles, or you can get lists of companies. So you define, I mean, typically you would start with maybe a list of business profile, a list of businesses within a certain geographic area. If you were interested in, you say, hey, okay, look at, I've got NAICS code 333233, and I want all the businesses in the state of New York, right? And then you would look through that and then say, hey, here's something that looks really interesting. I want to get a business profile on this specific company. And then you can go back and request business profiles from that. The sample that I used here was for the spreadsheet, which I'll show you later, is an RNA sequencing company. The company profile is an AI company, AI search engine company called Perplexity. At that, I'll make more comments about Perplexity after, but that's an interesting search engine. Go on into Data Axle. Again, Data Axle is will give you both the company list and the profile. The summary says it provides the most up-to-date business and consumer data available. Data, they're saying over 4,000 phone directories, 350 new business sources. The consumer databases are built from over 500 different sources. Again, I'll say, well, what are those sources? It's like when you see an interesting stat that you want and it says what the source was, I would dig into that. Going into business reference guide. This is more specific to, you know, a lot of times people are putting together their business plans and projections and they want to try to value their company, okay? It's like, what's their valuation? This would give you some rules of thumb on pricing and valuation. What are some industry benchmarks? Whether you want to use a seller's discretionary earnings approach or whether you want to use a different approach. So the business reference guide would be a good source for that. And just to let you know, a lot of these industry reports have some sections in there for that. It's like, hey, in this industry, you know, the valuation multipliers might be 4.3 times earnings. So you might want to get that and compare them between reports to see if there's any real variation between them. This ESRI is a browser-based mapping app. So you can do it on the whole United States, or you can drill down in areas. This is good for if you're going to do a consumer type product. This is very good. This is one of my favorite resources to go to for consumer products because they give you the market potential index. Okay. So they have a bunch of categories and you can look into the specific area of industry and then different categories under there. And it talks about what the retail market potential might be. And they say, okay, the industry average for this type of product or service is an index of 100 for the country. And in this region, you know, the index is higher or lower. So that gives you kind of an indication of whether that might be a good potential market or not. So the higher the industry, if it's over 100, you know, that's a better indicator that there's more spending going on in that for those specific. The sample I used here was more of a retail market potential that has some categories, but it has like computer sales, cell phones, etc., stuff like that. You can get a different category than just retail market potential. You can get service potentials, other wholesale potentials, different categories like that. Profit sense is more of a financial metric, and I'll show you an example of that, but that's more typical for using, I would say, if you're looking for debt financing, you want to look at the profit sense ratios. It's very similar to risk management association ratios, where lenders will look at those ratios compare your projections to those ratios. If your if your debt service coverage is 42 times and the industry is 2.1 times, lenders would then look at you and say, well, why are you so high? But knowing what the industry is, what the industry metrics are for your balance sheet, industry metrics for your profit and loss statement, for cost of sales, net profits, operating account expenses. This specific, the research library can get it for you, but your advisor can get it for you too, because everyone in our shop has access to that. So let's go on. Fundica is a database of financial institutions and other support organizations. So I'll show you an example of that. That's we can put in your specific industry, and it'll say, okay, here's some funding sources for you. The last is the business plans handbook, where they say here each handbook has this is a database. This obviously this description talks more about the print hard copy handbook, where they say each handbook has 20 samples. You can go into there and say, okay, I've never written a business plan for this specific business, and the research library can send you back some samples and say, well, here's some samples we have on file. This here is the Albany SBDC website, okay? And how do you get to register with the Small Business Development Center? If you go to this www.sbdcalbany.org, that's going to take you to this. That's going to take you to this website here. And even though they got cut out from this presentation here, right, this slideshow, right up above here, there's a button that says request an appointment. You click on there, you input your information, it goes to our director. Our director within a day or two will assign you to an advisor. As you're putting in, that's going to ask you what you're interested in. If you're interested in research network services, you can put that in. If you're interested in other stuff, you could add that in too, right? If you're interested in help with your business plan, if you're interested in help with your projections, you can add that in. You'll get it assigned to an advisor. An advisor you'll get an email that says, here's an advisor's, go to this schedule and the advisor will be open on these times. You actually set up your own appointment with them, and you determine whether you want to meet in person or you want to meet by online. So again, let's go back one. It's like that's www.sbdcalbany.org. Okay. With that, let me go start showing you some samples. We got to move along here, huh? Okay. Let's stop sharing. And I will go back here. I'm going to share. Thing at the top. This is the vertical IQ report. This is the industry report. So it'll go through, and as I said, it's about 30 pages. So it's going to start with an overview. It gives you some quick facts. Sometimes some of these details in here are interesting things to key in on. It'll give you industry trends. It'll give you industry trends graphically. It'll break it down in employment, revenues, average wages, producer price index, for that specific category, if that's relevant to the industry. It gives you some tips on underwriting and risks, okay? So that's something to kind of key into on. It's like, who are my investors or my lenders going to be looking at? What are they going to be looking for? It's like, okay, small customer pool, high reliance on exports, rapid technology. It's like, okay, maybe in your presentation, you want to address some of these, right? It's like, that'll give you some tips to say, oh yeah, I know it's really competitive, right? I know it's rapid changing, but this is how we're going to address it. It gives you some trends over time, imports, exports on the global perspective, various companies, countries that are in the industry, exports by country. And if you're going to be using this for, like, I mean, they have call prep questions here. They're kind of questions that might, trigger some thought, but it's also conversation starters. If you're doing the I-Core program and you need to do customer discovery, it's like maybe this gives you some tips. So a lot of these industry reports are used by salespeople, right? So that's why they have questions here. It's like, okay, what's the conversation going to be like? What do I want to know about it? Okay, this has some financial, but most all the industry reports will have financial benchmarks in them. BizMiner, as I said, splits out the market research from the finance, so you can order both of them. And then there's other web links. Okay. Again, I don't want to overstate the some of these things, web links, sources, all of these things, related profiles, that helps you gain the understanding. Your business or your product might fit into a very small niche in a bigger industry. And it's like, you start at the bigger industry and you say, okay, well, where does that fit, and what's the specific market we're in? But all of this helps you get there. And I think that's it for that one. Let's go to the BizMiner. BizMiner, this is the BizMiner market profile, as opposed to, let me go back up here, the BizMiner financial profile. All right. So those are two separate reports, two separate requests. Again, we're starting here, industry market profile, looks at the NAICS code, that 6-digit code, 339113. This one happens to be surgical appliance and supplies manufacturer. This one happens to be narrowed down to a specific region. It's like somebody saying, okay, I'm looking for manufacturers in Suffolk County, New York. This report was done back in March. Talks about what's in the report. Here's some of the sources. It's like, okay, look, if you look down here, some of the sources they use in here, you go, okay, Data Axle. That's one of the reports I looked at, right? Business valuation. It's like, well, here are all the other sources. So, they're combining data from a lot of different sources. And that's why the industry reports are, you don't have to go dig down into the raw data. They've kind of done that. But if you need to get more specific, you can go look into the raw data, and you have you have the places where they got it from. Let me go back here. Okay, this happens to be Suffolk County, so you can see that they're looking at locations right out here on Suffolk County. So we're looking at trends. There's always trends analysis. That's a big thing. Trends, sometimes people are more, 20-year trends aren't really that relative. What happened 20 years ago? It's like, but but you know, going back 4 or 5 years is definitely relevant. Competitive market analysis, monthly changes, the volatility, volatility here of industry monthly market volume averages. This gives you some information, market penetration here.
Tom, we have about 4 more minutes, and then
Oh,
we'll go
that's
into
it.
Q&A.
All right, I'm going to go quick then. All right, we got BizMiner. Here's a copy of a business plan, right? Okay, that's kind of pretty basic. The solar power, this is the business valuation. You see, these were the multipliers. It's like valuation might be 6 times EBITDA, so 5 times EBIT, or about 4 times seller discretionary earnings. Let's do, okay, here's the one that I told you about, the market potential index. It's like, this happens to be 1 mile radius or market potential. You could say computers in households. You can see within this 1 mile in Baldwin, New York, they got owns desktop computers. The market potential index is 115. That's 15 points higher than the industry average. Okay. A data Excel. Here's kind of a company profile. This is one that has some information. You look at here, it'll help identify other competitors. It does have nearby businesses in there, which is not really that relevant, but you go first research, entertainment. That's another D&B industry report. Here's a Perplexity AI a profile. Has anybody used, I mean, if you've used Perplexity AI, that's for deep research. It's a pretty good search engine. I've used it several times to go do patent searches. It does a decent job. It's not great. It's not it's not the same as hiring somebody to do patent research, but Profit Sense, as I told you, that's here. That's just, you can get that right from us. That's more industry financial data. Okay. I'm going to go. So here's one that we don't have. I'm going to mention it because you may have a colleague or another student friend in a different institution. Our research network used to have these reports. They're called IBIS World Industry Reports. They are the absolute best. That's the top quality. When our research network couldn't afford them anymore, I found out our library had it, and I was grabbing them from the library, and then they cut that off. So my daughter was going to Bentley University. I was having her order get me IBIS reports. But these, if you have a source for getting them, they're definitely the deepest, more up to date too than any of them. So, but BizMiner is good. Vertical IQ is also good. So, so with that, anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
This has been great, Tom. Thank you so much. If you have a specific question, please ask. Tom is a wealth of knowledge, and as you can see, there's been lots of information shared today, lots of different resources. You don't have to know which resource to ask for when you're contacting the SBDC. You just have to state your case, explain
Right.
what you're looking for. That's what the advisors are there for. They're going to talk to you and help you understand which resource they're going to tap into for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some, I have these there's these 2 samples of company profile. The data Excel has some pretty good information in here. But then if I look over here on the merchant intellect, we're lucky to get the company phone number and the number of employees. I had one merchant intellect where they listed the people and the positions for over 2,000 employees. So
Wow.
you could drill down and say, that's the person I want to talk to. So Brian had a question?
Yeah, so I've paid a lot of attention throughout this meeting. There's been a lot of great information. I'm more of a person that works better in a face-to-face environment, and this is all very new to me. I'm quite advanced when it comes to the tech side of things, working with AI and changing the way that it works. And I feel like it would be better for me to just bring my laptop into the center to let you guys take a look at what I'm visioning and what I have, to let you guys say, this is what you have, we see it, this is the direction we need to go.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. You can come in and, when you get assigned to an advisor, okay, I would put in that you're very advanced on AI, okay? When you sign up for an appointment, because we have one advisor here who he's the most advanced here. So you'll be talking on good terms with him, okay?
Perfect. He's just the guy. Just like a little brief overview if you are interested. I've spent the last year working on a project that I spent 5 years researching, which was AI.
Mhm.
And I've recreated a new version of AI. It's not AI anymore. I've actually named it Ollie, OLLID, OLLIE, sorry. And it's a new version of AI, which is a closed system of learning, but it also uses the neural network, much like AI, but it reduces the need for an NLP and it learns from its very own code.
Mhm.
So there's just so much intricacy, but there's also so much art to it, which is what makes it so different.
Mhm.
And I feel like he's just the man to understand what I just said.
Yeah, right. So put that in there. You want to put that in there and say, yeah, I want to speak to an advisor who's up on AI, right? It's like,
I gotcha. So is there time today for me to be able to stop by?
probably not.
Okay.
It's just so that you know, our schedules are very packed. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. Like, that's the area that's new to me is how to get myself into the center.
Right. Right. So if you go to the website and that first page I showed you, right? Let me see if I can bring that back up here.
Yep, creating a profile,
Right.
joining as a
I
member of the
I do
SBDC.
have all of that already.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then you request an appointment, right? And
Okay.
then so that appointment's going to go in there, and you want to say specifically you'd like to talk to Greg. Okay.
Greg?
Right. Right. And Greg, so the director will assign you to Greg, right?
Okay.
And then you'll get an email from them, and it's a standard kind of AI generated email, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah, I definitely understand
It's a
those.
system generated email. It may not be AI, but it's a system generated email, and it'll come out and it'll say, click here, and it'll show you all the next availabilities of Greg's thing. And then
Okay.
you click on whether you want to meet in person, right? Or you want to meet online, right? And
Sounds good.
then pick the next in-person time available, and he'll meet you here, right?
Perfect. Thank you so
Know where
much.
we are? You know where we are?
Yeah, I actually live right down the street.
Okay, so we're in E-Tech, right? And if you come in the front door at E-Tech and you walk straight, you're gonna run into the big globe, right?
Hmm.
Kelly's incubator is right off to your right, and our door we're between the big globe and the incubator, right?
Okay.
Right.
Thank you so
Alright,
much.
thank you. Anybody else? Alondra, did you have a question? Okay.
So I will get you, the, presentation. I don't know, Kelly, you have, I'll resend you the presentation and I'll, because the samples are pretty big, I'll just compress it in a zip file and
Perfect.
send that to you and then, you can send it out to everybody.
That's great.
Let's take a temperature check. How many of you are feeling overwhelmed by the amount of resources that were shared today? You could drop it into the chat, raise your hand. A lot of really valuable information. Quiet crowd. Oh, Tammy's good.
I didn't find it overwhelming. I mean, obviously, I think I'm going to need to set up an appointment to kind of comb through and figure out precisely what the best report is.
Perfect.
I'm in progress on doing that, but I thought it was a very helpful webinar here. So I'm excited to dive in later.
Thanks, Kevin.
Awesome.
Plenty of use
Great
cases.
feedback.
Have example reports in the office that we could sort of look through, because I prefer to be in person as well, and also to maybe just look through a few reports rather than ordering them all or asking for them all to figure out which one is going to give me the right information.
Well, she could send you the samples, right? And
Yep, you can look through the samples and
pick the
see
ones you wanna
which
look
one,
at, right? It's like,
Okay.
or ask the advisor. Bring
right,
your
well,
use case to them and they'll be knowledgeable enough to be able to say, okay, we're going to go with the biz minor on that one, or no, we need to go a little bit drill down farther. Let's go with this resource.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And to get an advisor, would I just fill out the form online?
Yep.
Yep, request an appointment.
Okay,
Yep, right through the online button.
thank you. Yeah, this was wonderful. I really appreciate you're putting this together.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right, well,
it's a, you know, it's, I just think, just keep in mind, you know, anybody who's done, you know, a deep research project, you know that, you know, you can't just go pull one report. And if you're lucky, maybe 1 in 1,000, it happens, you know, and you get all the information you need, you know. Sometimes it's piecing the pieces of the puzzle together, you know. You look at some of these reports in there and they'll say, hey, you know, I forgot which one report in there has some things in there and it says, you know, in Suffolk County, the average expenditure per person is on this type of good is, you know, $224, right? And then you're like, and the US average is 100, right? And then you're like, okay. And then you want to say, well, if I'm looking in my area, you know, I can start using the US average and then maybe try to figure out what the real is, you know, because that's, you know, people use averages per person, per household. That data tends to come raw data. There's a lot of other databases, you know, the Census Bureau has, if you're looking for the raw granular data, has the Census Bureau Builder. That's another, I didn't want to get into actual raw data, but that's good. You can build some good small business reports. You can do it by zip code. You can do it by townships, by geographic townships, and it all depends on what you're looking at. You know, it's and how your business is. Your business B2B? Is your business B2C? You know, you know.
Tom, I have a logistical question. Do you have tips or advice for how to organize and keep track of all the information coming up in the reports and this research? Is it better to use a spreadsheet? Is there a tool that can help
I don't know of
organize?
any specific tool, I'm sure, you know, I'm pretty bad at it. That's why I rely on the research library to keep track of all the reports they got and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, you know, I need this. It's like, but, yeah, I don't know of any specific tools.
Okay.
You know, I certainly for the list, the business list, you know, there's certainly contact software that you could import this stuff right into and cull through that, you know. As I said, you know, all of this stuff is driven by NAICS code, right? And some, you know, the NAICS code system starts with 3 letters, 4 letters, 5 letters, 6 letters. And then there's some people that go to 7 and 8 letters. I don't know exactly how all of these databases, I think they only go to 6 letters, but you can't expect when you're getting lists of companies, that's when you got to be really leery about and kind of cull through the data, because there could be a typo and you could have a nursery school in with computer sense, you know, it's like because somebody typed in the wrong database. I know the companies try to call that out as much as they can, but I've never found it to be that great. You still gotta test them. That's why I like the lists that have their websites on, because you can go into the spreadsheets and hit on their websites and see if they're validated, and just validate, say, okay, that's the right company, that's a good company, maybe I'll make a call on that, you know.
Great, thank
But
you.
maybe I should find out more about that company, right? And it's like, and then you can
Awesome.
come back and say, ask our research library, can you find news articles related to that company, right? And sometimes they may do press releases on stuff, new stuff that they're releasing. And so, okay, so you're doing a little corporate espionage, you know?
That's great to know. Yeah, being able to dig a little bit further, maybe finding out how they
that gets into the espionage stage, right? Yeah.
how they scaled or something. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Tom. Thanks for your time, and everyone, thank you for joining us today.
Okay. Have a good
Bye.
one.